Hi, welcome back. So we're going to get into, what is this, part 6 now? I'm not honestly keeping track. You could read the title of the video when I upload it to figure out what part we're on. Anyway, so we're going to do some more advanced rendering. So we've got it's pretty much done. Shift clicking works. I've got the title. Ignore the title. I screwed the translation up on both of these. So the actual item and both of them are using the wrong translation values. I have fixed it, I just haven't restarted. Speaking of which, the bug we were experiencing with the campfire where it was rendering the slot up there, that turned out to be an actual bug with the logic itself. It turned out every time you shifted and put something in this slot, it would update the fuel timer, which would keep increasing, which would render it, and it would eventually render all the way off the screen, and actually would eventually crash. That has been fixed by simply disabling the check that was there and fixing that and making it work rather well. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to do the item rendering, and then we're going to render items inside here so you know that there's actual things being cooked. Although by the very fact of the flames being on, it's enough of an indicator, but let's go for the extra mile and get a little bit extra oomph out of this. Now when it comes to rendering items, you have to pretty much do the same thing you're down here, except it's a little more trickier because you can't call render block. So right here, what we're doing is we're rendering a standard block. This depends on the world to work, as far as I understand. So if we actually called this and we tried to do stuff, like for example, if we, well, yeah, actually, there is a way to trick it. What we can do is we can create ourselves a fake iBlock access, and we could call this render method here and actually render our object and do everything. I don't have the time to sit there and toy with that, so we're going to do it the hard way first, and then we may come down here later down the road and with a different block most likely do it the easy way, because the easy way is going to take some hard work first before you can do it the easy way. So what we need to do is we just kind of needed to determine what exactly we're rendering. So we need to make sure we're calling render cube for starters, but everything else we can pretty much just copy this whole set here. We're going to render... yeah, we're going to render all the way up to the cap. And then we might render a bit of smokestack. You know what we're going to need? You know what, we're going to kill the game and we're going to restart it. That'll let me fix my translation tags. What this is also going to allow me to do is move these guys up here. And I'm actually thinking, how much work does it take to implement this? So what we could do is we could actually implement this. Tile entity wouldn't work, so we can't do that, but we're not using a tile entity, so it doesn't matter. The only thing we'll have to do is block and everything else. We could kind of make it work. The reason I'm hesitating is that even if we get it to work, it's not going to look right. Because we have to rotate this, we have to do things to make the inventory block look right. So what we'll have to end up doing is, if we do it the way I want to do it and implement like an iWorld block axis, we still have to rotate the cube and we still have to scale the cube down so it fits in the inventory spot. As well, there's no way for us to determine if we need to turn this code off. So I'm going to do it the hard way. So we're going to do it the hard way. We're going to move this code up, put it up here. And we're going to put static on this, so... and we're going to leave it as is, pretty much. So we're not going to put any tag in front of it, so it would be private by default. And we'll go through and we'll just put static on this, that way... you know, actually, we don't even need to put static on this. The weird thing about this is that there's only one of these ever. So this is pretty much static, even if it's not static. So we're just going to leave those alone. And then we're going to copy this. Bring it up here. Now let's actually not nuke that method line. I actually need him still. And a few things we got to do. And I'm actually going to cheat here real quick. And we're going to come down here, we're going to go, okay, if y equals -1, else And we actually do want to put this down here. As this is only used by the render method system, and we're going to use this guy, which this guy's going to still use the icon system. We aren't really going to care about metadata though. Well, we might care about metadata. Actually, why do we care about metadata? Okay, metadata is not used in this case, so... And then for blocks, we want to use the block that's passed in. And... we still have to do another step here. Can I access you? I can access you. That makes my life so much easier. So we're going to actually access the render. And we're going to use him to temporarily store our render bounds. That way we don't have to change code between these two. And we might actually be able to get away with calling the render system here in a second by simply changing the behavior of our method set. And we change these to max. So what I'm thinking, let me go ahead and get rid of all this here. We'll give this a try first and then we'll switch over if it doesn't work. Is I can call this and all we have to do is do things like if world equals null, then its direction like north, for example. We'll probably change that rotation because that north probably won't work. But we can do render world block null 0, -1, 0 block model ID and render. So we can pass everything in. And we just have to go really quickly stare at this to make sure there's no world calls. And right now I don't see any. So that looks good. And then we come down here to where we're doing the smokestack. And we go if y equals -1, we just disable the smokestack. We're not going to completely ignore the smokestack. We just don't want it to render right now while we're working on trying to figure out how we're going to get all this to look. Everything else, we shouldn't have to touch it. So we don't even have to use the iBlock access system. What the iBlock access would have done is we wouldn't have to set this to null, which would have then improved our odds of everything working properly. And then you could just pass some data in this and stuff. And if we implemented iBlock access, what would have happened is I would have passed in a player instance to this, and we would have pulled player light level from the player itself, and we would have pulled a few other things from the player. That way we can ensure that when we are lighting this block, so when we're actually doing lighting, which I believe lighting is disabled for inventory blocks anyway, so it doesn't matter, it would reflect the lighting of where the player was standing. So the item would get darker and brighter as the player entered light areas and left right areas. I just noticed that's misspelled. We're not actually going to change it, but I want to see if how badly I misspelled it. The typo in the word, let's see what it says. Rename to... Yeah, we just have an extra, or the A is in the wrong spot. I'm not actually going to rename it though, because that would require us to restart the game again. So far so good. Another thing we need to do after we get the item done and we get the other thing done, we need to fix the icons as well for the furnace. And then after that, this thing's completed. I think the client's going to do the recipe themselves. Even though the recipe would not be too difficult to add, it's just JSON data. I think the client's mainly trying to avoid paying me extra, which I don't blame them. It can get expensive to make mods, even when you're talking about somebody that, like me, which I give a huge discount. So like this furnace, for example, if I went and paid an actual developer to make this, I could have easily dropped $500, $600 to make it. I'm making $50, of which Uncle Sam gets a good percentage of that, and then the rest goes to paying for my rent. Actually, I'm trying to think of like how much I have to actually pay the government tax-wise. Luckily, I got like a piece of software that does it for me automatically, but it's still a bit interesting to have to remember. Like, I know when I was working an actual job, it was 25%, but because I'm technically under the poverty line, I think it's like lower. But then there's also an extra tax for being self-employed. And I think I have to do my own Medicare, Medicaid, or all that, like all that. I don't remember what that all is. All those like parts that go out in your taxes. I think it's part of the federal percentage anyway, so I don't think I have to worry about it. I think I do have to do state and local. But yeah, we're getting off topic. The whole thing is rendering because you guys didn't come here to listen to me ramble on. So yeah, that should work. There's kind of a few other things. Like, I want to sit here and like one day just toy around with this, even though I know anything I actually make for this won't work in newer versions. Especially when it comes to lighting. I think lighting is done automatically for you now. So I think how it works is you bake your model, and then Minecraft will rebake your model with lighting. I think you can manipulate how the lighting behaves, though. Passing in like a light normal or something. I forget how it's exactly set up. I have to go ask somebody that knows how to do rendering much better than me. Because right now, the truth is I suck at rendering, even though I can make something like this work. You know what? I messed that up. Did it work on the item, though? Yeah, look, our item is actually rendering. See, look, that's kind of nice. The scale is wrong, though. As you notice, as I said, it would probably not work properly. But we only have one method to mess with, and this is actually does not equal -1. And our item should have updated, it didn't. This guy, in order to get him to update, we just gotta place it again. It said 0 classes reloaded. Okay, 1 class reloaded. There we go. Something weird about that. You know, technically, if we're at the top of the world, I actually want to cut the top of this off as well. Although, I don't think you can place at the top of the world. I hope my multi-block code is set up that way. We'll find out in the future. So, there is an obvious problem. This is larger than a block in size in the inventory. It does render really well. Although, I really think we probably should drop it down 1. Because you notice how the corner of this is right on the edge, but then you come over here and that corner is not. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a GL scale call. And GL11.GL push matrix, and we're going to pop the matrix again. GL11.GL pop matrix. That way, like, anything we do in here doesn't affect any rendering outside of it. Hold on, I gotta see how this is called. Render inventory block, render instance dot render inventory block. Okay, we are inside of some kind of GL system, and I think we're good. I need to check how my render method worked down here. I think this one will turn the tesslator on and off automatically for me. Yes, it does automatically turn the tesslator on and off. So that's what I was worried about, is like we would start drawing in the middle of the tesslator still being turned on, and we would crash. Because you can't try to draw while the tesslator is already drawing. But what we can do in here is GL11.GL scale, and we can go like, I want to scale by 0.8. So that way it's a little smaller. And then we can bring it down. So that way we don't have to do any work, we can just translate. Anyway, so GL translated D. We don't want to mess with these two, we just want to bring the Y level down. Negative 0.2. Yeah, it looks good. And you know what I think we can probably do? Let's turn this off real quick. I want to see how big the smokestack will render. And we just crashed. I forgot we were using that as a render flag. Derp. Anything else we need to fix before I restart the client again? Yes, rename the tile. Typo, rename. Yeah, looking good so far. I mean, that was just a derp on my part, but effectively what we just do is put that right there, and that'll just ignore the if statement pretty much. I think Java will even remove it. And that way we can actually test to see how badly it would render. What I want to do is just clone it real quick and then drop the height of it maybe. And I managed to drink all my water. It's amazing how much water I will actually go through sitting here doing these episodes. I once put like 3-gallon jugs next to me, and in like a 4-hour period, emptied them all. Given the temperature of the room is pretty hot because of this computer next to me. That's probably why. I got like 2 fans blowing into this thing, and the side of my leg feels like I got sunburn. Because that's where the computer is right now. Next computer I get is going to definitely be an Intel. I'm actually really tempted. I got an Intel computer behind me that I use as a server computer. It's actually a decent computer. It was given to me because my dad didn't want it anymore. He's like, here, have it. It's got an i5 in it. It's, I want to say maybe at least a 4th generation i5. So it'll run well. And the clock rate's not something to boast about. I think the clock rate on that's like 3.5 or something. But even losing that much clock rate, just having something that A, would not overheat as often, B, not be glitchy, and C, Intel's and AMD aren't comparable anyways. So 3.5 may actually be the same clock rate I'm already at, because the processor I got's, I forget what it is. It's like some kind of number. We can check. I mean, we gotta wait for Minecraft to load anyways, so do these little segments between each. Okay, so we are doing a AMX FT 8350 8-core 4 gigahertz, and it'll overclock to actually 4.2 is what it'll overclock towards. But I actually got the clock rate dropped on it already. I think I got it set at like 3.7 just so it doesn't overheat and shut down. But as far as I understand, when it comes to AMD versus Intel, the clock rates aren't comparable because they're not measured the same. You have to actually start going and comparing flops, which is the number of times it can do calculations of something. I think what I have is equivalent to an i5. I mean, you don't really need anything more than an i5, actually, surprisingly, for doing things like gaming or work. I could use an i7 just for video processing, surprisingly, but I actually can do just fine with an i5. When I was looking at prototyping my computer designs, I was actually considering getting an i5 just because they're $200 and they're not too bad. The chip I got, I actually only paid $150 for it, which is the reason I picked up AMD in the first place, is that they're stupidly cheap. The trade-off, though, is that they produce a lot of heat, and I didn't really comprehend what a lot of heat meant. When people told me, I'm like, it's just going to overheat a little bit, so I kept with the stock heatsink. And I really need to go foot the bill for a better heatsink. The only problem is the heatsinks cost almost as much as the CPUs. Like the heatsink, a lot of people try to sell me is this $80 like piece of metal, and I look at that like I could just go take like a muffler off of a car, cut it in half, and use that bitch as a heatsink, and it would work all the same. Anyways, yeah, there we go. So that's gonna render not horribly in the inventory. If we drop the height of the stack by so much, it'll work. Although what I need to do is fix rotation. So north is not going to work, so let's try south. I don't like south. So I want to go try east, because I think east would point to the right, which is... The reason I don't like it is it's pointing the wrong direction, so it feels wrong. But see how the two are pointing in the right direction now? That looks nice. I wish we could render the fire in there. So I think it would look really cool is if you could see the fire and you immediately understood what it was used for. At least maybe put a charcoal block in there. So what we want to do is, now that we understand that this is not going to work properly, we want to make another version of this, which is just going to take a little bit of effort. And we want to drop the height. So we do the height here. So our stack end is 2. And we need to drop it by half, so we literally just need to go like that, minus 0.5. And we'll do that to every stack end, and that should give us the results we want. If I could format the code real quick. Yeah, so we got a little smokestack there. That looks nice. And then in here, what we also want to then go ahead and do is render, so this would be, and let's document this real quick. Item rendering. And we already copied that, so this would be charcoal. And how we want to do the charcoal is we want to come up with some kind of number system. So there actually is numbers for this. So west end is what I want to start with. And then I want to go to east start. And then I want to go from, I believe, south end is the no, that's the wrong one. So we want north end here. And what I'm doing is I'm building a box so that way if we change the wall thickness, it auto updates. And this would be south start. And then this one wants to be wall start. And we're going to do like wall start plus 0.1. And we want to render, you know what? You see how this is all block cobblestone right here? This should be block. I could explain some weird lighting glitches we've been getting. Because even though what we're rendering is cobblestone, we don't want it to pick up the material properties of cobblestone while it's rendering. We just want it to render with the texture. So we wanted to pick up on the material properties of our actual block, and that would fix things like lighting and stuff. So we fix that real quick. I don't see a problem anywhere else. That must have just been like a leftover. And what we're going to do is this is going to be cool block. Doesn't matter what side. Apparently we picked a side when we were working on this, so it doesn't really make a difference. So you can see a little cool block in there, and it adds a little extra detail that makes it look much nicer than it really is. And you know what? I kind of want to scale this up just by 0.5%. Or half of a point value. So let's say we do that. And that looks like it fits much nicer. You get some good detail out of that. If you open you look at the player's inventory hand, which I guess we could probably improve inventory rendering of the hand. Like, I don't really get what happened there, because you look at things like this. These two guys render identical, and then you go like that. It's like, well, we're not going to render the way you want me to render. Yeah, none of the rendering is working for how the item is supposed to behave, and that is really due to, well, what is causing that actually? Because the thing is, when you go to render this stuff, you have no control over how this renders when it comes to like what state am I in? Like, am I in a player's hand? Am I in a GUI? You have no control over that. The way to get control is you would actually have to assign a item render to this, which we get to in another episode, because that's not going to be something I'm dealing with right now. Anyways, next part we're going to get into is to actually render items in here, which we'll do with this guy over here, because this guy is perpetually in fuel mode for whatever reason. That's a bug. Does it actually consume any fuel though? Like, the weird thing is this is ticking over even though that's not going down. Something I need to probably do here. Process slot. And I think as soon as we change the inventory. The weird thing is, I think I already have a system for this. Like on inventory update, check slot. Yeah, right there, check recipe. Yeah, that's weird. Maybe I need to kill the fuel timer. Because this one goes has recipe for slot 1, has recipe for slot 2, which we don't have a recipe for either slot. Or burn time is going up, and yet the cook timer is going up and up and up and up and up. This is run server side only. Yeah, we're watching the GUI tick over, and definitely when it's moving, that's doing its thing. So let's go ahead and break all of these but one. Break you as well. And I'm going to put a bug point here. And has recipe for slot 1 is true. So it thinks there's something in slot 1. Now if we look at inventory modular, inventory map, slot 2 and 3 have fuel in them. Although I don't know why the items are reading null. Probably a bug of some kind. So that's good. It's just somehow it didn't get into a state where it's going to recheck the slot. And what we actually probably want to do is just for safety reasons is just go with ticks percent 100 equals 0. We'll just reset the recipe check. So that means this won't go on for more than 5 seconds. And eventually it will tick over and go, hey, I don't have fuel. I don't have recipe, so I don't know why you think I do. Input. Get smell the results. Yeah, it should return null. And we'll just put like a debug line. Oh, wait. Okay, it tripped in the false state all of a sudden. Yeah, we're still updating cook time. I'm confused. It's a good way to put it. Has recipe slot 1 just ticked to true again. We just saw it go to false. And this is meant to run server side, right? Yeah. So we see the input slot 1 is false. Why are we running the check again down here? Why are we running the check with... I don't know where that came from, but clearly there's a little problem there. So that was what was causing that. There we go, it turned off, and then for some, whatever reason we're not ticking over the fuel timer. So let me go check, how does the furnace work real quick? So we'll go ahead and compare that. Do I want to know why I just crashed interacting with the vanilla furnace? Something's weird, is a good way to put this. Is I shouldn't have crashed on that. Okay, furnace recipes.get. On pick from slot furnace, slot container. It's kind of tricky to determine like what just happened there because I'm pretty sure that was the furnace that did that. But at the same time, we can see right there's a network packet. And did that network packet come from that furnace, or did it come from some other tile and just magically trigger when it shouldn't have? We're going to go ahead and relaunch this. And actually, we're not going to relaunch this. We're going to just go ahead into the next step. So we got the item rendering. We got everything else doing. I'm pretty sure that bug is fixed now. I misnamed this guy too? I just noticed that. IBBY. ISBR. Fingers must have slipped and derped around. So this is good. And we're going to render the items in here. And in order to render the items, we've got to know what we're messing with. So we're going to need some local values. Public item stack render stack 1, and we'll just do render stack 2. So these are going to be used only client side, and they'll be populated. So what we'll do is we'll go, okay, if there's stuff in the slot, and we'll send it to the slot. Yeah, so we'll come down here and we'll go, okay, right, if get inventory dot get stack in slot input slot 1 doesn't equal null, then we'll go byte buff utils dot write tag to this, and we'll get inventory dot get stack in slot input slot 1 write new MBT come on. So that'll sync it, and what we want to do additionally to this, we're going to go buff.write boolean true. We essentially want to say like, hey, we actually have an item to read. If we don't have an item to read, we then want to set this. Alternatively, what you could do is, instead of doing it this way, you could also just sync some kind of dud item, but because we're dealing with a furnace, we don't know what could be in it, we're going to just do a boolean. And we'll do this for both slots. And then we come down here and we go if buff dot read boolean. Then we go render stack 1 equals inventory, or not inventory, utility byte buff utils dot read item stack. Is there like a write item stack method I don't know about? Oh sweet, there actually is. Whoever added that, I'm really happy, because that just saves me like a little bit of extra work. Hopefully it actually works as expected though. So we'll go look at this real quick. Right, I stack the buffer. Right, short, byte, short. Why you can't set item stack size too high? This would actually be really difficult to use for anything other than just syncing normal items. And yeah, I just write it on one of them. So this just saves you a little bit of extra work. And that looks good. And we can read buff. Hey, look at that. That's so cool. Then of course, the else, if we have an else statement, render stack 1 equals null. And then we'll repeat the process for the other stack. There we go, that's going to sync our data. And apparently we extra junk there. So that'll synchronize. We won't have to do any work for that. Anytime we send a descriptive packet to the client, we're good to go. The only thing we have to then worry about is we do have to actually, anytime the inventory changes, do a packet update. So we are going to need to keep track of some kind of state here. Private boolean send descript packet equals false, actually, because we don't want to send it unless we need to. We're going to make sure that gets sent at the very end of our logic here, and we're going to change that to that. So send description packet. We'll put that back there. That's there for a reason. That's probably our GUI update. And then we'll come down to where our inventory updates were right here, and we'll go send description packet true. We don't care to like to update our 2 slots there. It's fine. So that'll get us updated. So anytime you shift something into there, next tick it'll sync, and that'll be good enough. And in here, we pretty much just want to render each one. So I'm going to go if furnace.renderStack1 doesn't equal null, and the furnace stack 2 does not equal null. And we're going to use our inventory utility for this. Not inventory utility, render utility. I'm pretty sure I had a helper for this. I think I did. We just made some code for this for testing here. I mean, I could probably make it work again. So there's not an instance on this, is there? Nope. I have a render 2D helper, so let's check that out. Nope. Render item overlay utility. That's probably what it is. So let's take a look at this guy. I have a feeling like I'm going to have to write custom code for this no matter what I do. Yeah, here's the render item. That's kind of what I want to run. Yeah, because this is what works technically. Direction's not really used, which is confusing. You know what? We're going to customize this because I don't like the way this looks, and I need to toy with it. So we're going to grab it. We're going to come down here. We're going to make another method for this. Public void render item. Put that there. We are going to need... Actually, we don't need the world. We do need the world. World, because we're going to need to make sure the item has everything it needs. And we're going to cache this guy. We don't want to be remaking him. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to build him out. And we'll just set him to null for starters. And... entity item dot set item. So we'll make sure to get the stack. Item stack stack. Stack dot copy. It means we are going to be copying a stack every frame. We aren't going to need to translate. And I don't need to rotate it. I'm confused why there's an angle there, so I'm gonna we'll comment this out because I don't think that's necessary. I do think this might be necessary. We don't care for fancy graphics. I think that's there because there's probably a bug with rendering on how we were rendering it previously. So we're going to render this. We want to make sure everything stays static or it'll render weird. And I don't think I need that. I do need that. There is a tricky part with this. And we'll have to see if this causes problems. But this could sometimes crash. I doubt it will crash for us, but it could. Anyways, we want to just basically render the item. Make sure we give it the world. So this will be furnace.world.unwrap render stack. It won't have to GL translate this and stuff, so we're not done yet. And we'll have to scale it. Now it's we should already be translated by our position, so all we have to do is actually just translate this, and we are going to have to rotate this as well. So I like the scale. It does look good, so we're just going to leave it there. I'm actually going to catch that real quick. Final float item scale equals 0.5. Worst case scenario, we got to bring that down by just one more. Now, when it comes to translated values, I know a cheaty way to do this. Yeah, we'll do it that way. The reason I'm going to do it this way is because this will make life a lot easier, because then we can just base our translations off of this. So you can say, okay, we'll translate by such and such. The Y value probably needs to go up a little bit. So our tricolor block ends at about 0.8. So I'm thinking 8.5 is where this will be probably rendered at. We'll test at that location. So we're already translated on the center, so we don't need to mess with that. So really, we just want to know how far to from the center do we want to render this. So these values down here are going to be negative. So one of these is going to render on the left, one of these is going to render on the right, and we'll make sure we switch them depending on how we've got it set up. But that should work in theory. It's just, it comes down to this down here, and also we need to do entity item world equals world. Almost forgot to set that up. We might want to set the position as well. Yeah. The reason why we're going to set the position is I know there's some really finicky mods out there that will change behavior based on where they're at in the world. And sometimes if you give them bad location data, they will actually physically crash the game because they're not designed to be modified. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, our location is going to be the furnace. So we'll share location data. And this should center it out on the furnace too. Actually, if we switch it to this, it'll center out on the furnace. Hopefully, nobody's dumb enough to run really fancy code client-side that would cause a crash, but almost forgot to do the pop matrix here. I'm going to put a try catcher on this. That'll A, catch any stupidity from another mod. And then on top of that, we also need to do int crash count equals 0, private or boolean, error lock equals false. Crash count plus plus, if crash count is over than 10, error lock equals true. What this does is this prevents console spam, and actually we'll do like something like that. So if we have an error and it crashes, like there's actually a more proper way to do this, which would be like if is same error as last time and you keep getting the same error over and over again, lock it down so you stop getting the error. But we're just going to turn error reports off, and what this will do as well is we come up here and we go if not error lock, so we're literally just saying, okay, if we break, turn this entire section off rather than have it spit errors out. And we're going to get this started up. And we should be done pretty soon. So might I note I'm only recording this and I'm not streaming this. And I just had a stream notification pop up from Wood Priest, who just decided to follow me. Makes me curious, actually. So let's see if there actually is something running in the background here. So I got a notification, some friend requests, seems to be normal. I have actually accepted these. I think these are glitched. Yeah, go ahead and close that. I don't know. I guess they found my channel or something and they decided to click the follow button. They thank you if that person ever sees this video. I probably should stream these two while I'm doing them. It doesn't matter too much. I'm mainly just recording this because it's a really late hour during the night and I don't like to stream at late hours. Partially because I don't want to give people the impression that I'll do that more often. The only reason I'm doing it now is the person I live with is out of town, so I don't have to deal with them yelling at me and going like, hey, please go to bed so that way the rest of us can. It's really cool because I'm like the only person here, so that means I can be as loud as I want. I can turn the music up, I can watch TV. I was actually watching some Netflix original anime here earlier. I'll have to remember the name of it, but they have these people that can't die, and when you kill them they reanimate, and they put out this black particle thing where they can make monsters to fight each other. It's kind of interesting. It's nothing special in terms of anime. I've seen a lot of animes do similar things. I mean, you got the one with the blood in it that they can conjure blood things and attack each other. That's roughly the same premise. I mean, I know each anime tries to tell a different story, but they all have reoccurring themes. And this one seems to be like, you're technically a monster, but you're still human, is the one impression I'm getting from it. It brings up the question, what is it to be human? I mean, personally, I don't know how best to describe it, because I want to use the word soul, but that's not quite right either. It's kind of the way we act and behave that makes us human. Like, our physical body doesn't make us human, it's the way we behave. The way we interact with each other, being nice to each other. Because you can very well be genetically human and be a monster, simply because of the way you act. But we're talking metaphorical here. Because physically, it's like when you get to the biological level, then like you have to go with whatever the standard is, or you confuse people. And I could do a whole entire just absolute talk on that by itself. But I don't want my YouTube channel to be political based or anything else. Because I know this type of conversation have a tendency to degrade into politics. And I'm not a fan of politics. That's actually the reason why I'm independent and I don't care for either party. But yeah, let's not go into that one. So, graphics. Graphics. You're not doing anything, but we need to make you do something. Potatoes and chicken. I'm not seeing anything render. Not seeing any errors. Could be a height problem. Could be a scale problem. Could be any number of things, actually. Oh. One, we're rendering the same item twice. You are now a potato. You have been dubbed as the... Okay, for one, we're rendering with the wrong rotation, so I want to get rid of the rotation off this because it's not necessary. Wow, that did absolutely nothing. Yeah, we gotta manually rotate it. So let me bring that back. I want this line because that's yaw. We were messing with pitch for whatever reason, like it was rotated pitch-wise by 180. And hold on, let me, like, I don't see why. It might have to do something with like the render process. Whatever code was running that probably needed that to be that way. So we We really want to make sure we're translating and rotating before we're scaling. Because if once you scale, you actually change your grid size as well. So if you were moving by a meter and you scaled by half, then you're actually moving by half a meter now. So let's try that and see what happens. That's definitely the wrong position. That much I know. Let's at least get the rotation fixed on him before we try to do anything else, because if we don't fix the rotation on him... Oh! Okay. I think I want to rotate after I scale him. Translate scale rotation, I think, maybe. Yes, that's better. I can only say it's better because the reality of it is it's still a bit confusing on why it's there and not over in a different spot. There's an order of operations you're supposed to do these in. So I'm going to invert these two in order to get like an opposite effect. Because what I need to actually do is I need to rotate these by like 90 degrees. And yeah, that works. So those are next to each other. Let's get the spacing fixed first before we try to shove them into the different places. So let's go ahead and do this as well, and we'll catch this. Final float item spacing equals 0.25. Maybe. So the spacing is right, but the positioning's not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a GL push and pop call here, and I'm going to translate the whole entire thing. And I may have to translate this by rotation as well, so I'm going to go ahead and put this up here. And, well, I don't know. Let's get it done. So what rotation we're in right now? We are in east facing rotation, which, you know what, it's not bad at least. But there's definitely is something wrong. So 0.2. So we're going to transfer like both of them by 0.2 and see if that makes a difference. What? Oh, that makes total sense. Okay, I think we went farther away. So let's do this. It looks good. Do another 0.3. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this. I'm going to put this here as well, so that way we only have to mess with one Y level. That looks really good. I'm going to drop the spacing down by a half here. That's closer, and we need to bring it over just a little bit more. You know what? I think this is 0.5 on both of these. We just need to center it, is what's happening. Because the items are trying to render centered already. And immediately that didn't work. Like, not even a hesitation on that, just total failure. Okay, so this apparently is somewhat necessary. Just I don't comprehend why it's necessary. Okay, we screwed something up here. Oh, these are both the same now. So we need to bring it in. So now we need to do an actual rotation system here. And this is where it's kind of confusing. Like, what's going on that I have to also do like a furnace direction, get direction dot like offset X. Like, what part of this has determined that that is necessary? I feel like I just need to do like a really quick Boolean equation just to figure out what's up. Because effectively, only one of these is being used at any given time. That's not going to work. So that needs to be a minus. This probably also needs to be a minus. We're going to test all the rotations here in a second. But we're going to get one done first so we can figure out what's up. That looks good. It's a bit too high off the ground. And yeah, so what was our stopping point for our previous object? .8? No, wait, that's the Y level's there. 0.6. We're too high up. So I'm going to put 6 in here and I'm going to see if that actually will render properly. Nope. 7. That looks good. So we can actually see our items in there. And what we're just going to go ahead and do is just set up all of our furnaces here and just test to see what's up. Let me go ahead and clear some of this. That way I can make sure... Oh, I just deleted that, so... Let's go ahead and get the items in here. So that works. And that works. Even though that one's not quite right. So it looks like I might have to tune this rotation for each of them individually because whatever's kind of wrong with this rendering makes no sense to me. We could rotate this. That would take just as much work. So we need some kind of if statement. So we go if, like furnace.get direction equals something. Equals forge direction dot east, I think is what we were working on first. So go ahead and do that. And whichever one's got the fire in is the one that was working and it's no longer working. So I think this is actually west is what this rotation actually is. Okay, that's good. We'll go ahead and do east, even though east is horribly screwed up. I would actually just go ahead and copy that, put that there. So we'll go do east next, and sometimes when you're doing like more complicated rendering, it's just best to take the simple approach. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to make code work that does not work. So effectively, if we actually have this behavior going on, what I want to do with this is that if I know that this is west, west is going to have a -1 on the x. So technically then that one works, this one's 0, and then this is 0.5. Or this actually would be negative, each one of these numbers. So that's the values that make this work. If we come back over the one that's burning, where'd it go? Oh, it went somewhere because, well, we have no items left. Actually, let's get rid of this and we'll grab potatoes. Try this again. These were positive numbers. There we go. Now what we can do is we can also change the Y level if there's no fuel in there. But yeah, that looks nice. When it comes to the east thing, I'm just going to grab this guy and I'm going to bring it down. So this is just going to be a negative value probably for this one. Or I could be completely wrong. You know what? I think this is going to work for all of them. So what I'm going to start with... Actually, no, we're not going to do that. Because I have a feeling like I need to invert some values here. So we're going to just quickly sort it out, and then we'll see if we can optimize. Always try to avoid early optimization if you can. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick, and we'll see if that works. Okay, so like here in particular, I need to adjust this and change this to 0.4, and this probably needs to change to 0.5. That made no difference on that side. Made no difference on that side. Why did that make no difference? Maybe I need to increase instead of decrease? Yes, it needs to be increased. Too much. That looks good, actually. Let's go over this side real quick. So it looks good over here, and this is the south. So it's the north one needs to come back towards me a little bit, and to come back towards me is increase the negative portion. So this would go 4. And I was kind of wrong. I guess we just invert that. So it looks nice too. And what the really cool thing about this as well is these are closer on each one of these sides to us, and we can pull them even closer if necessary, but they do look kind of cool. Now we just need to adjust the Y level. So we'll set this up. We'll go float item Y level equals 0.7. And this is mainly just to hold realism too, is that if we don't have fuel in there and you put some items in there, we will make sure they maybe are a little higher. And what we could also do is you don't have fuel in them, but you have items in there, maybe we want to stick them right here on the edge. That's something you could do if you really wanted to, but I'm not gonna. That's a lot of extra work. So we want to just do this real quick, so we're going to go is cooking, then that's what our Y level is. If not, or actually has fuel is what we really want to put here. And we want to bring it down. So the difference between these two is basically a 0.1 value, so this would be 0.6. And it looks a little nicer because it looks like it's actually on the coals there. And if we go to this one, I think the item just went underneath. Has fuel, which apparently that check is failing, or is cooking. There we go. They're back up on the coals. So there's something wrong with our is fuel check. Has fuel check. Might not be syncing correctly. Something might be going wrong. It doesn't matter because his cooking check works all the same. So that looks really nice. I call that good. Smoke coming out. Item renders are good, so if I pick this, item looks nice. That's a done deal. So I'll see you guys on the next episode.